Hey, folks, welcome back to the Mañana No Mas podcast. This is another episode. I've been coming at you, a lot in 2023. And I got a new guest with us, my new friend, Raffaele. We connected on LinkedIn and, we had a couple of meetings and I thought to myself, man, Raffaele's yet another, just element of genius that I need to bring to the audience at Mañana No Mas. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Raffaele and what they do, and then I'll give him a chance to give you more details. But he's with FineAdvisors, and FineAdvisors helps entrepreneurs, subject matter experts in the service sector, achieve what they call a scientifically perfect company. So a new business where margins are higher than similar firms, where services are activated in a short time, and there's no waste of time and resources. The word waste is not in the corporate dictionary. Staff feel a strong attachment to the corporate cause, and I'm sure that has to do with internal culture and all that kind of stuff that he can go into with us. But the phrase that stuck with me and the thing that I saw on his LinkedIn profile that really drew me in was what they call the Strategic Office of Continuous Improvement. And through that kind of line, that's how him and I connected. We started to communicate. And with no further ado, I'd really like to welcome Raffaele to the show. Raffaele, good to see you.
And, Thank you, Kurt. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Yeah, and if you would, man, just tell the folks a little bit about, who you are, where you are, and what you guys are about.
For sure. First of all, I am talking to you from Italy. My firm is
Italiano.
Exactly. And we are, me and my co-founder decided to, create the Strategic Office of Continuous Improvement for one main reason. Me and my co-founder, we were both working in the context of SMEs, so small and medium enterprises. Okay, myself, I'm also an aerospace engineer, and I was working in a wildfire firefighting aircraft company. They do this kind of service in Apulia region in the southern part of Italy. And my co-founder was working in the HoReCa sector, so hotels, restaurants, and catering. And we were both doing something like Lean Six Sigma projects. Okay, for the ones that don't know what Lean Six Sigma is a continuous improvement, business development, and business strategy methodology, a framework that was created at the end of the 90s by merging lean thinking, also known as Toyota Production System, which is a qualitative approach, and Six Sigma, which is a more quantitative approach, very American because it's pragmatic, based on statistics and the study of variation in processes. And they merged these two methodologies because they found out that, what was missing in the first one was pressed in the second one and vice versa, okay? And we saw, we were working in SMEs and we found out that so many things that we needed to readapt to be working in SMEs were really needed, okay? Because as you know already, there are SMEs that are, we have a say in Italian, okay? I will translate it literally, okay? Which is being the shoemaker with the broken shoes, okay? Which means that you're struggling in delivering what you do with yourself because you don't treat yourself as your own customer. And there are several other problems that come from this thing, such as poor communication between staff and management, as you were talking before. Also, managing time, lead times are very high. Or another thing that most of entrepreneurs, they treat decision-making as something that only takes gut feeling, okay? And not taking into consideration data or enough KPIs to run their business, and they lack also in standardization, okay? And the main difference between SMEs and big companies is that, of course, big companies can, set up internal offices that do 24/7 this kind of service, this kind of activity. So business development, business strategy, continuous improvement, and so on. And we found out the missing link between SMEs and big companies. And this is the reason why we have created the Strategic Office of Continuous Improvement, which is a new way of managing a company, a new way to make it growth in the market. It's not just like consulting. To say it is consulting, it is you are just limiting the definition of what we do, okay? And I also want to just do a brief focus on the catchphrase about the scientifically perfect company, okay? Because it's not just a catchphrase. I mean, perfection is not possible to achieve, but of course, you can achieve scientific perfection. And what it means that you have the power of data, you have the power of a model that is built only for SMEs, that was built from an SME to another SME, so that addresses all the problems, the issues, the bottlenecks that we really have, okay? Because we found out those bottlenecks, those problems, those limitations, and also those opportunities by, working boots on the ground, okay? So by getting inside the company. And this is also the reason why I'm telling you that saying it is consulting, it is a limitation. Because we usually say that the strategic office of continuous improvement is just like, let me say, an orchestra maestro. Why? Because the orchestra maestro is able to create harmony, to create a melody, to create music by making different instruments inside the orchestra to work properly, to be in tune, and to create the melody, to create the piece of work, the piece of art that you can listen when you go to the theater, as an example. And we do something similar with companies by creating harmony between the different areas of the business, and not only areas. I'm talking about also the different heads, the different people inside the company, because it is also a matter of leadership, okay? Our approach, that is not a consulting approach, it is an office. You are even implementing an actual office that works with, a logic of fractional management that you can activate as you activate Netflix. So it is a subscription. You can deactivate whenever you want. And you're not hiring somebody, you are getting an office from another company. So all the problems about hiring are not addressed. So you don't have to hire anybody because you are getting a subscription. And we have found out that while getting inside companies, staff got us as we were part of them, as we were an actual office, as we were, I want to say it in Latin, as it is part of my heritage, but I will make it simple, of course. Inter pares. That means between the ones at the same level, between the ones that are at the same level, with the same approach, with the same drive to, get the business to excel, to improve continuously, and achieve the condition of doing more with less, achieving more with less.
Yeah.
And I think that it is quite an introduction that I made.
Well, you know what, Raphael, sometimes I ask people to introduce themselves and they just stare at the camera, and other times people go off, and what's fun about when people go off, and as you know, I already told you, I love Italy and I love the passion of the Italian people, and it's all coming through, man. It's all coming through. For me, it's like "Mi di un cappuccino per favore" and "Quanto le devo." That's my Italiano, right?
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
I think that the energy came out from my hand gestures.
So things that I really want to just kind of point to as you gave that introduction is, remember, people are listening to this podcast, and there's a little bit of interest when I say, strategic office of continuous improvement, right? And then we talk about a scientifically perfect company. So we piqued their interest, but then you started talking about, remote offices and subscriptions and KPIs. And, a lot of folks, they hear the term KPI, and I'm just going to throw this at you because what I do, I consult with power sports businesses and WordPress, owners and stuff. And I'm amazed. A lot of people don't even know what a KPI is, or they may have heard the term key performance indicator, and they may go, "Oh yeah, I brought in this much money and my expenses were this much." And I'm like, no, that's like a profit and loss statement. Like a key performance indicator is, what are the individual elements or the individual things within your business that you can quantify, that you can measure, and then look at, at a scheduled period, right, to compare one period to the other. And could you maybe shed some light on, like, maybe how, when you start to work with a company, you start to help them identify their KPIs and what you focus on for growth markers?
For sure, for sure. I mean, I want to do a brief focus also on how we do the onboarding process of companies that want to implement the strategic office of continuous improvement. First of all, it is crucial that we align with the vision, with the mission. And for anybody that doesn't have grasped it so much about what is a vision and what is a mission, is we have to align perfectly with where you want to go, how fast you want to reach that objective of yours, and how it is important. And this kind of alignment, we do it after, of course, we set up an introductory call. When we call it discovery call, of course, the name explains itself. But after this discovery call, what we do is that we brainstorm together with the company. We do a guided brainstorm by using a type form, which is a questionnaire, but it flows very well because it's one question per page, and we comment it together. We brainstorm on every single question together. It is also a moment, because that a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have time to think about their company, or if they know what they need to do or the perception of what they need to do, they don't have time to implement anything, because they are driven by, I just need to, get more turnover, I need to get more clients, I don't know what to do, and they defocalize. Okay. And it is a very nice moment in which the entrepreneur has the time, an hour. It's just an hour, but it's an hour when he sits down or she sits down and thinks about his or her business, and he or she gets out of this call with a new light on the business. Okay. And of course, we have gathered enough data, and I'm coming to the meaning of data in a short time, enough data to, personalize how the strategic office of continuous improvement can bring value, can change how performances are in the company, and we can map every single action, every single result, and every single outcome of the first 3 months of our work. Of course, because we work by trimesters. We have found out that entrepreneurs much more understand the value, and let me say, they digest it even better if we work by trimesters. Talking about data, the main point is that a business in general, a company, produces a lot of data, okay? And it can be found in every single area of the business, okay? There are different kinds of data. There are different uses for the data that can be fetched inside the company. The main difference is which kind of data is the one that you need to make your decision-making better and make your gut feeling work even better, because it is empowered by data, and you cannot change data. Data is quantitative. Data, let me say in some kind of way, is written on a stone. It's not words, okay? So you can unleash the power of something that is not an emotion, it's rational, and combine it with your, let me say, emotional decision-making to, make your gut feeling and your intuition to work better, because you know where to go and how you create this condition. First of all, you understand which is the data that you need in your specific sector, in your for the specific area that you want to track data that drives the decision-making inside your company. And then you don't need to create a lot of indicators. You just need 3, 4, 2. It depends on the dimension of your business. It depends on the sector. It depends on different variables, okay? But you just need a few of them to have a crystal clear image on how things are going today, how things can go tomorrow, and how things went yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. I think about some of the work that I've done in the past, whether it be Ducati or Suzuki or any of those. And as I work with these business owners, I'm always, how do I say it? I'm always impressed. It always makes an impression on me that it seems the better a business gets, the higher the expectation becomes from the owner. But because the expectation has risen, it almost seems like they have more of a lack of patience, or they're more critical of their growth as they grow, right? And so one of the things that, speaking to data, is I always say it's so important to take that snapshot of where you began and then take the snapshot 6 months or a year later, or because you could be 2-3 years into a project and a client might be all upset and saying, I'm just not seeing the growth. This isn't going in the right direction. And sometimes you have to go, whoa, slow down. Let's go back and look at the data. And you might not feel like to your point, right? Like data is the truth, right? But your emotions aren't true. And so,
Exactly.
so you'll talk to a business owner and they'll be all upset. They'll think everything's going wrong. And you're like, no, you just got so accustomed to, like, because low hanging fruit when you first start a project, right? You have a lot of wins right away and you feel that awesome sense of euphoric growth. But then it starts to steady out and you still continue to grow, but it's not the same emotional impact.
Exactly. And unleashing the power of data allows you also to understand why I'm in this condition of getting everything stable. Of course, for some business owners, getting things stable is an objective. For somebody else, it means that you're reaching, let me say, a plateau, okay? A state in which there is no growth, even no downward trends, I would say.
Yeah.
But when things are steady, when there is a plateau, there's something that is not going well, because there is always room for growth and evolution. Okay, because of course in some occasion it might seem that the sector is saturated and you need to refocus your know-how in another niche that is similar to the first one you were working, but you have enough know-how, that if you realign it, you can let me say, restart growth inside your business. Okay, but if you're driving your decision making basing your decisions only on what are you feeling, only what your gut is saying to you, and you cannot compare it with something that doesn't have any emotion, they're just numbers, or they're just true or false data, how can you say that your decision is the best one in a context that is hyper competitive, and more days go on, the more competitive it gets, and it will get? Yeah. How can you think about making decisions this way if there are so many others that they have unleashed the power of data and they are eating you from the ground?
Eating you from the ground. You had mentioned other departments, like other parts of the business, different managers within a business. And, in my consulting, I find that to be not with the small companies, but with the medium-sized companies, it can be a real task, right? Because we call them silos in America, right? They have different silos, different verticals. And so those people that are in control of other departments, they tend to have different priorities from one another, right? How does
Yes.
How does your Office of Continuous Improvement kind of help meter some of that? Is it through the data?
Not only through the data, but also because we take into consideration a lot what is the human factor between the different people inside the business, of course. And the thing that we have noticed, boots on the ground, is that the way we interface, and of course, during the first weeks, the first month, this silo situation, you can still perceive it, okay? You can still see it, of course, but because we have just started working with the company, but as soon as we create conditions in which we can make the different departments communicate and compare how priorities work between them and which are the priorities of priorities, let me say this way. And we do it by, we create sessions called steering committees, okay, in which we pick different people from different departments and we brainstorm on a single subject that might be a main process that we are working on. It might be a decision that we are taking. It might be a project, a solution that we built together, and we want to implement it to achieve this, and that in terms of results, in terms of, again, data, KPI, and so on. And we found out that while at first you approach every single department and you approach it by by having very clear where the management wants the company to go. And as I was telling you before, for us, it is crucial to align perfectly with where they want to go, which are the objectives, and how much time you want to achieve them. Because we know how to be mediators, let me say, how to find common ground between the different departments, between different people inside the departments, and also between the priorities they created for themselves inside their departments. And at first we get to work with the single departments, okay? But when we make them to work together and they are followed by us, we guide every single steering committee, we guide the brainstorm. They, at the end of it, they come to us and they have a much better grasp on how things are going at a 360 degrees level. They understand, oh, okay, these are the departments, we are all together, running to the same objective.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to be a little bit more focused on this thing and we on another thing, but they decided together. And everything was guided by us. So we facilitate this condition of, I will say, let me say, eliminating the silos situation inside of a company.
Yeah. It's in a motorcycle dealership, there's very definitely a sales department, parts department, and a service department. In fact, over in Italy, a lot of the service departments aren't even with the sales department. They could be 2 blocks or 2 miles away, or 2 kilometers.
Another thing, Kurt, is that our steering committees allow the company to eliminate or reduce the tunnel vision effect, okay? Because when you get people from different departments to work on the same subject, there are, of course, the ones that are involved day by day in that subject, okay? But the other ones are externalized and they give another point of view that the ones that are working day by day in that specific subject, as they are working day by day on the same subject, they are just in this tunnel and they cannot see on their sides.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a story that they taught me when I was, getting the certifications in Lean Six Sigma. So just imagine you are in a nuclear reactor, okay, and there are engineers and technicians that are discussing on how to, build a new reactor. Okay, now we have to make it this height. No, we have to make it this way. No, if we make it this way, it's not okay, and so on and so forth. The conversation gets more and more. It gets very, very hot. Okay, and somebody from the cleaning department, so somebody that is not a technician, is not an engineer, comes and listens to the conversation and jumps in and says, guys, everything is interesting, but every solution you are proposing, I cannot clean the reactor, so the reactor might explode. This is the power of the external eye.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to come in from the outside and see what's missing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude, when somebody is, I think one of the hardest things about business is when you go from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur, like when you work by yourself to when you have a team. And then as you begin to grow that team and your company starts to grow, I think there's a point where the entrepreneur loses focus, like loses the ability to maintain it all, to keep to run the team, right? Because at some point, the entrepreneur goes from being the guy that does the work to the guy that delegates the work, right? And operates a team. If we're talking about people at that level and as they're growing into your marketplace, right, into a small and medium enterprise, what's your advice for when to look for help?
I mean, one thing is that we have worked also, and we are working with solopreneurs, and we're getting them to become actual entrepreneurs. Okay. And you're right. I mean, what we have seen is that they are in a condition in which they are, let me say, a one-man army. Okay. Because they do everything. They do sales, they do marketing, they do operations, they deliver the service, and so on. The main thing and the main error that many of solopreneurs do is that, okay, I need to expand that sector of my company because I am expanding my clients, my dimension. Okay, they start hiring without any clue on how processes are carried on, if there are any bottlenecks, what to implement and improve internally, because you also have to create the condition in which you can actually delegate somebody.
Yeah.
To delegate, it doesn't mean that you are continuously being there and controlling every day what they're doing. They need their autonomy, and they also need to be free to, do what you were doing before when you were alone. Okay. So the main advice I give is that don't rush into hiring. Try to calculate your saturation level. Okay, I will explain that another way, because there is, of course, another way, but as not being a native speaker, some terms I miss them. But you can have an estimate on, okay, how many clients I can get until I cannot manage everybody, and if I get more, the quality and the value of the service that I deliver gets lower. Okay, it is 10 customers, 10 clients. Okay. As soon as you reach 8 and you're able to get to 10, okay, now it is time, okay, how things are carried on inside my business. Have I ever done process mapping? Do I have clarity on how activities are carried on in the different areas? Have I created standards that I can teach to the people I can hire? And on that, because if you have standard, you can be able to delegate people.
Yeah.
Because, you can track them without being, a dictator. Okay. You can actually delegate people. You give them the condition to get decisions instead of you being there present to every single process. Okay. So again, the main advice is, before rushing into hiring, just have a look inside of yourself, ask yourself those questions, map the processes, create a standard, and then you can hire. It is better to, not acquire new customers for a month, but then at the end of this month, when everything is clear, when you have the crystal clear idea on how things are carried on inside your business, you can hire people, and you have eliminated 80% of the problems of hiring the first hirings inside your business.
I love that. I love that. And here's why I wanted to touch on that before we got to the end of this thing today, Raffaele, because I want to value your time. And I'm so thankful that in your time zone that you made the time to come and talk to me today, right? Like I'm really flattered. I want to make sure that the listeners understand, like, they're not going down a dead end road at night without a flashlight. Like,
Exactly.
there is a process. There is a way to find a way to move forward. It's not magic. Companies don't magically go from being a small thing to a big thing. Like, everyone sees the Mark Zuckerberg story. Like, he was in college, then he dropped out, then Facebook happened, and it's amazing, and he's a billionaire. And it's like, no, you're missing all of those steps where, he had a small team, and then he had a bigger team, and then he had to figure out how to delegate to that team, and then all of the heartache and struggle that happened within that company inside as they went through those growth patterns. But we can look back on that and go, okay, well, here's, to your point, a process map on how you would address that growth, right? You would say, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. Very recently, I read a book by Dan Martell. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And I'm going to pimp him out because I know the guy. So why not pimp him out, right? But it's called Buy Back Your Time. And he talks about when you hire as an entrepreneur, you're hiring people to do the tasks that absorb your time. And you should hire away your least profitable tasks so that you can give yourself the most valuable time back, right? And so I literally looked at what I was, Raffaele, I love LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn almost every day, and I'm networking and I'm doing things. But when I thought about it, I said, how are the physical activities I'm doing to network, how is that adding value to my business? And I discovered that I could literally pay my son, right? Which sounds crazy because it's nepotism when you hire your own family. But I pulled my son aside and I said, this is how I find people on LinkedIn. This is how I communicate with them. And this is how I try to get them into that first discovery call. I said, is that something you think you could do? He goes, oh yeah, I can do that, Dad. I said, okay, I'm going to pay you this much to do this over the summer so that you, and I, to your point, I made him a training video and I showed him exactly how to do it and And then I said, and if you think you find a better way to meet people and communicate with people, just let me know what you think that is and we'll discuss it. So I left the opportunity for him to input his own changes to maybe make it better too, but that's amazing stuff. Like the way you describe it and the way you talk about, helping these other companies to find their way to advance and grow. I think it's exciting because too many people don't see the help, or they don't see the option. They don't see a way to get over that next speed bump or through that next detour. And here you are just offering it.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I mean, I want just a little bit of a thing that I loved, the example of the flashlight. Okay. There are companies that don't have a flashlight, and there are companies that they have a flashlight, but it is, let me say, old or not working. Okay. There are so many companies that I've talked with that say, oh no, we are 20 years doing this kind of things. Why we need to innovate? Because at the 21st year, if you don't get a new crystal clear idea on how things are working and you want to, challenge the status quo, in the 21st year, there will be another company that will cut everything from you and get your market shares.
Yeah. Dude, it's so important to constant improvement. It's in your name, right? But it's so
continuous improvement. Exactly.
It's so important to constantly evaluate and constantly be ready to make the small changes, because if you constantly make small changes, you don't have to alienate people later by making huge, big changes. You can stay more consistent and keep people, because a lot of people hate big change, right? But if you can implement things slowly and more incrementally, then you get better buy-in from your staff and everybody else.
Exactly. And slow and continuous works better than, big change, because allows you also to track what you're doing and to change the way you're doing it if it's not giving you the results you want.
Oh, dude. I sure hope the people that are listening can see the messages in between the words today, because you dropped a lot of wisdom today, man. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
What's the best way for our listeners to reach out to you? And just because you're in Italy, I don't want people to think they can't reach out to you. Like, I want the whole world to go and find Raffaele.
For sure, for sure. I mean, for me, time zone is just a standard that is not a problem. I've talked to you. I talked with others from the US, also from Australia.
Yeah.
It's an Italian living in Australia, but still, people can reach me on LinkedIn. It is the best way for reaching me out. And I'm also launching my YouTube account, and you can find us on FineAdvisors International. And we are posting videos in English, of course. But LinkedIn is the best way to reach me out.
Awesome. And I'll have that link in the show notes, and it'll come up on the screen down here for folks that are watching the video. Raffaele, thank you so much. Let's wave goodbye to the audience, and then we'll see you next time. Mañana no más. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.